there, welcome back. Welcome to part 2 of RoboBunny's top 10 go-to WordPress plugins screencast. And now what I'm going to do is in the last screencast I talked about the Ultimate Coming Soon page, Jetpack by WordPress.com, WP Google Fonts and Next Gen Gallery, and SoundCloud is gold. Here's the next 5 in my list. Okay, I kind of chose these arbitrarily, but that's okay. FAQ Manager. Oh man, how do I spell this? Manager. Let's try this again. FAQ Manager is a really nice plugin. I've used this before. This allows you to create and manage an FAQ section for your site. And here's a few screencasts or screenshots that we can see here. And I've seen this. You can probably see this in use on a few different sites. But this is really nice. A lot of times you'll build a site where you need to be able to have FAQs, frequently asked questions. And you know, the benefit to using an FAQ manager as opposed to just putting them all on a page. You could certainly put them all on a page, but this allows you to be able to manage things, move them around, drag and drop, that sort of thing. So it's a really nice interface for creating frequently asked questions section. Another one that I like to use, there's a whole bunch of different social sharing type of plugins, and I've used a bunch of different ones. I've used Add This, I've used Shared This. Here's an example called Shareaholic, and what it is if you add this to your site, it'll add, I'm sure you've been to those websites where there's a bunch of like share this content on Twitter, share this content on Facebook links at the bottom of every post or page. You can install that yourself. You can actually install this plugin, and that will allow you to that will automatically add all these little social share buttons at the bottom of your content, and that's really handy if you're trying to get people to share the content and kind of, you know, you're trying to get more people to visit your site, so you want your site visitors to share that on their own social media sites. So that's nice. Shareaholic is just one example. Like I said, there's, oh my goodness, there's tons of different plugins for sharing, social share plugins. So I encourage you to have a look at all those. Add This, Share This, or 2 other ones as well too that are really good. Okay, talking a little bit more about some kind of administrative plugins. HyperCache is a plugin that I tend to install on most of my WordPress sites. HyperCache is a caching system, and it doesn't really change anything from a functionality perspective, but what it can do is speed up your WordPress site. And it speeds it up by caching certain parts of the site that you really don't need to ask your users to reload over and over again. And so I've tried out a bunch of different caching. There's other caching plugins too. I find this is probably the easiest to configure. It's the easiest to just kind of set and forget. If you don't really, you know, want to get your hands too dirty with changing configurations and really tweaking things. And I have to admit, I mean, there are ways that you can speed up your site even further, but it requires really kind of knowing what you're doing and a lot of configuration. If you're new and you don't really know a lot about what you're doing when it comes to setting those types of cache configurations, and you just want to concentrate on, you know, your content and your site design, that's perfectly understandable. I really recommend HyperCache. It tends to be, like I said, the easiest to just really set up. You just install it, and there's a couple key things you need to tell it to do, but it's very user friendly and you know, really user friendly for people who aren't developers, who aren't like full-time developers. It's really nice. So that's HyperCache is something I install on almost all my WordPress sites just to speed them up a little bit, just to make the user experience a bit better for people visiting my sites. Better WP Security. Speaking of another administration plugin, Better WP Security is a security plugin, and I really encourage you to install at least one, like a security plugin on your site. This is one that ends up being my go-to security plugin. There are other ones as well too, obviously, but this is one that I really like. And of course, they bill themselves as the #1 WordPress security plugin. Once again, I like this one, and you see it has got very good ratings too. I like this one because, again, it's probably the easiest one that just allows you to set and forget. There's a couple little things that you can tweak. If you want to go tweak things, it's actually quite configurable. If you just want to improve the security of your WordPress site, you don't really know how to do it, this plugin will help you do it. You have to understand that there's no such thing as perfect security. A perfectly secure site is just not available to the public. There's always going to be some sort of a trade-off. But this allows you to maximize the security of your site while minimizing the negative impact for you and for your site users. So that's a good thing. So Better WP Security is a security plugin that I do like and I do recommend. And finally, I mean, the reason we want to secure our site is because bad things can happen sometimes to our site, and because even with secure sites, you might accidentally break your site or do something to damage it. And so in that case, it's very important to have a backup. There's multiple backup plugins, and there's different methods for backing up your site. But here's one that I really like, WordPress Backup to Dropbox. The reason I like this is because it allows me to automate the backup process, so I don't have to do anything. It's not like I have to go and remember to hit backup every week or every 2 weeks or every month or however frequently I want to back this up. I can get this plugin to do it automatically for me, which is really nice. There are other backup plugins that'll do that too, but the thing that makes this one unique, it's pretty easy to use, it's very user friendly, and it actually backs it up. It stores all your files as well as a copy of your database to a Dropbox account. So if you have a Dropbox account, you can just get it to just upload all those files or transfer those files automatically to a Dropbox account. And that is really cool, because that means not only if you've got your Dropbox synced, if you've been using Dropbox, great. If you've got your Dropbox synced to your computer, it means that you are automatically getting backups of your website stored on your computer, and it's also stored in the cloud, right? Because you can also log into your Dropbox account and access your files there. So to me, it's kind of like backing up your WordPress site in two different places. You have it backed up on your device, whatever computer is synced to your Dropbox, it's going to be backed up there. And on top of it, it's also backed up in the cloud. And I think that's really, really good. So WordPress backup to Dropbox, that's probably my favorite backup plugin. I usually have different methods to back it up. When I really care about backup, I'll usually do a few different backups, manual backups as well. But if you're just getting started and you just want to set up you should at least have one backup plugin installed to just and have it automated so you don't have to think about it. So that's a plugin that I really like. I've only installed, and while I was talking about this, I only installed this one, the Ultimate Coming Soon page, and we saw how it added a thing here to the settings. One last thing I want to add is when you're installing plugins, okay, the thing about it is that how you go about configuring the plugin will really depend on the nature of the plugin. And there's no way to tell you how to do this without you just going in there and starting to activate some plugins, install and activate some plugins. Just to let you know, Ultimate Coming Soon page, as an example, will add, you'll always have your active plugins here. You can always click on the active link right here, and you'll always see them here. Sometimes they'll have a settings page, and in this case, we have a settings page. That makes it nice and easy. Sometimes you won't see it there, and you'll have to go dig around to figure out, well, how do I configure this plugin? Okay, this is a learning curve that everybody goes through, so don't get frustrated, okay? Sometimes you just need to do a little exploring to figure out how is it that I configure this particular plugin, because they're all different, right? In this case, Ultimate Coming Soon page, it's going to add a section here under the settings section. Jetpack actually adds a whole new link up here. And so you'll be able to click on Jetpack and see a whole bunch of other actions up here, so you can turn on individual elements of that plugin. And it's kind of a special plugin because it's sort of a suite of a bunch of different plugins together. WP Google Fonts, I believe, adds a setting section down here. Next Gen Gallery, on the other hand, adds an entire new tab in here. Yeah, and it would be somewhere in between here, and there'll be a little custom icon, and you would click on that, and you'd be able to configure everything to do with Next Gen Gallery from within there. SoundCloud is Gold, I believe, also adds its own tab here. FAQ Manager will also add a tab up here. A lot of the newer plugins, a lot of the really popular plugins will add a whole new tab to this section here. Shareaholic, I forget what it does. I think it adds something into the settings section, but the best way to find out is just to install it and see. HyperCache, usually all that does is just adds an extra link in settings. So if you don't see a new tab here, just go to settings. Chances are there'll be a new link inside there. Better WP Security definitely adds its own tab, as does WordPress Backup to Dropbox. Um, as you install these, you'll see new stuff changing, and you just click on it. Most of the well-built plugins will be, you can just follow your nose through the process of configuring it, and a well-built plugin will have really good, it'll be obvious what you're supposed to do, or hopefully it'll be obvious. And if not, then you might have to go to the website and actually do a little bit more research. In this case, you might actually need to go back here and look it up and read the FAQ and go to the support section and ask some questions. But don't let that intimidate you. As you become more familiar, you're not going to be an expert on every single plugin that's available for WordPress. That is just not going to happen. What you can become an expert in is how to use the plugins you choose. So choose your plugins carefully, okay? Ask people for advice. Take advantage of the discussion boards that are out there. Say, hey, I'd like to do this with my WordPress site. Does anybody have any advice on how I could do that? Or is there a plugin that does that? And chances are people will be willing to help you. And you might have to install different things and activate different things. It's a good idea to not have too many plugins trying to do the same thing. I would try to just have one plugin at a time doing something. Otherwise, they might, step on each other's toes. So if you install a plugin and it just doesn't work for you, deactivate it and uninstall it. Okay, don't just leave it there. If it's not working for you, get rid of it, because otherwise it could cause problems with other plugins. You could have conflicts. But that's pretty much it. And that actually, not only is that it for plugins, but that's actually it for my WordPress course. We've actually been through so much, haven't we? We learned all about posts. We learned about pages. We learned about media and how to handle like pictures. And we learned how to embed videos and audio sounds and all sorts of things. We learned about, changing the appearance of our site through themes. And we learned about widgets. And we learned how to create our own menus. We learned how to customize the header. Today we just learned all about plugins and stuff like that. We learned about so much stuff inside here, and there's even more to learn. But now you have enough information to get started on your own WordPress site. And that really is the best way to learn, isn't it? Really, I cannot recommend that enough. The best way to actually learn how to use WordPress is just to start a WordPress site and start building. Okay, just start building things and experiment with it and kind of play around with the different features. And if you can think of something that you want to add to your WordPress site, chances are, there'll be a way for you to do it. When my students ask me, can I do this with WordPress or can I do that with WordPress? I always tell them, to begin with, the default answer to all these questions is yes. It's just how much work is it going to be to implement this? And a lot of times, the amount of work it takes to implement something is not nearly as much as you think, because WordPress is a really flexible system, and there's a ton of different plugins available to help you do things. And the more you know about WordPress and the more experience you have with WordPress, the more cool things you're going to do. So I'm going to leave it at that, okay? It's really just scratching the surface of what WordPress can do, but I feel that you've got enough now to start building a website, and your learning path will really be determined by whatever it is that you want to do with WordPress, and you're going to get really, really good at that, okay? So I know that you can do it. Good luck. I'd like to thank you for, sticking with this screencast series. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that it's been useful to you. Good luck to you as you explore and learn more about WordPress. If you have any questions, or if you do build a WordPress site, please let me know about it. Post it in the comments or send me a message. I'd love to see what you've done. I know that you can do a great job. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.